morning, or good afternoon, actually, everyone. Welcome to Talking Horses. Sarah Bodway, Andy Serling. Glad to be here at Aqueduct after a little delay on the subways, but good to be here. And our President's Day card. This, I was going to say, was our only Monday card at Aqueduct, but of course, now that we'll be here, I guess we'll have
more opportunities.
We'll have a Memorial Day card. But that, I think that's the only other one. Can you think of another one?
No, not coming up.
Yeah.
Maybe in the past, but
Yeah. Well, 4th of July. We'll have some. That could be a Monday.
yeah.
Anyway, we don't need to spend any time
Limited
on that.
edition Monday.
8-race card today, and we'll get right to work on this, actually. So head over to Naira Bets. If you're not a member of Naira Bets, what are you doing? Match 200. We'll match the $200 of your initial deposit. Our TD Eddie tried to tell us there was a middle pick 4 today, but Sarah shut him down.
You would not be
on that
fooled
one.
either. Don't.
I might have been. I don't know. I'm a little delirious after that.
Eddie was really excited
Subway
about the middle
trip.
pick 4.
Track stats. Head over to Naira Bets. Check out the track stats as well. We have I can't remember the order. $100 or more in Oaklawn and Aqueduct. You get $20 back. I'll have to opt in for that. You never know. I could get really wildly caught up at Oaklawn. I won there yesterday.
I heard.
I know.
Greg pushed you to play.
Well, no, I had won already because I had bet the horse before
okay.
it. But
Okay.
then Greg gave me that pick 4. I was betting a few dollars to win a horse, and he said, "Aren't you going to play the late pick 3 because we had the sign-up bonus?" And I said, "I haven't even looked at the races." And Greg said, "It's easy. Just use the 4 and 9 and the 3 and 11." And the 4 and 9 ran 1-2 in the next race.
Yep.
It's 6 and 7 to 1.
Yep.
So Greg is my hero. And I told him I'd buy him a breakfast sandwich, but neither of us were here because the subways were down. Anyway, they're up. We have the cross-country pick 5, 2 at Aqueduct, 3 at Oaklawn. And American State Rights 3 to 4:30 on FS2, 4:30 to 6 on FS1. Race numero uno. We will go back to October. 3 races back for LeGrot and see her winning a race. And Sarah and I are not getting adventurous here. We are taking LeGrot, who looks to be an enormous favorite. And if she loses, I'm not going to have the winner.
I feel the same way. I mean, this was a picture-perfect ride this day by Javier Castellanos. She had kind of been a little bit more forward, dropped back, but he saved all the ground and was able to find that split right up the rail to get the win in here. And she's just been facing some tougher horses over her last 2 starts. Didn't really run that badly when finishing 3rd to She's Awesome and Mim, and then just in over her head last time. Now this is a big drop. She looks like the horse that if she's going to get the mile, it's going to be against this field.
She feels like the horse to beat to me, and I didn't really want to take anybody. I guess the entry or the newcomers in here. I wish I could have seen something appealing about them on their recent form. We'll see. Those Richie World horses have pulled some upsets here over the last few years. We'll see if it happens here.
And I felt as though Argentina Girl was just one that had shown some speed at least. And maybe if LeGrot gets beat, it's by a horse that ends up wiring her. So that's where I went for second. But
she better hope LeGrot falls down coming out of the gate if she's going to be in front of her here, because Trevor's going to the front with LeGrot.
Yeah,
and she ain't fast enough to keep up.
It's LeGrot and everyone else.
It feels like it to me, but you have to run the races. Race number 2. I want to start off by showing Tetsu, and I know Tetsu was claimed out of the Rick Dutrow barn, but you could argue that this is one where Greg DePrima is saying, I'm going to run back on the Dutrow training. When you claim and you run them back quickly, it's often a good intention move. And Tetsu should have won. I mean, Tetsu got left in there. This was a weird period where it appeared the first couple of races, the rail was very strong, but the track did change. So Tetsu may not have been as much against the track as it appeared when you first watched it, but he still ran the best race. But I think you have to ask yourself, are you going to get the same kind of performance in a new barn even 10 days later?
And while he has run well for different outfits at times, you also have to wonder when he's sort of topped out towards the 80s, he usually doesn't run it back right away in his next start. He's really only been able to put back-to-back 80 Beyer speed figures together once in his career in the past, and I think that was a really big effort, and he should have won that day. I agree. Seas Get Degrees a little bit helped by the inside.
This is a harder, tougher field anyway. Even if you had won that race and it was Rick, I'm not sure that you would be running to bet this horse back.
Exactly. If you like him, I can understand some things maybe against him last time, but I felt as though this was a more difficult group overall.
It's also not clear the track was against him, because that track changed so much that an argument can be made that the rail was dead the last 2 races, and there's an argument can be made that rail was gold the first 2 races. And it certainly was an odd situation, because it was the Friday that we came back after we had an extended period of gold rails, and you almost wonder if the track was still the same and suddenly they went, we got to do something about the track, and
Sure.
maybe it happened, but it did seem possible the track took a dramatic turn. Talk about life changer, obviously seems like a logical horse dropping here.
Yeah, I mean, he just ran well fresh to finish second 3 starts ago at this level to Emerald Forest. I remember the Cantor Massis saying that they were kind of surprised that they were the only ones that went in to claim him off of that break, and then they've just stepped him up against tougher company over his last couple of races. I feel as though the mile 2 starts ago maybe a little bit too far for him as well. So now...
But that doesn't account for his pathetic performance.
No, he regressed significantly, but it was also tougher company, and he's just returning to a more realistic spot now and going a distance that I think that he prefers a little bit more than going a route of ground.
I think you have to hope that he's a horse, and I've got him second, that didn't like a muddy, wet, sealed track as well, because he did run poorly on them, and sometimes as they get older, they get a little more recalcitrant and don't like them. I'm going to go to Lost in Rome, coming off of the layoff. We'll take a look at the win 2 races back. Now, listen, this horse came back off the claim for Rick and did not run particularly well, but to be honest, it is a very bizarre spot, that 1.25 mile race. And it's funny because that came up a big field, and there was that weird Linda favorite who was stretching out significantly, who couldn't get the distance, and Bear Oak was pretty good, won the race. And I just don't really think we're dealing with a horse that wanted 1.25 miles, but also considering it's now been 6 months, something obviously went wrong. I'm going to trust that Rick can get him back to his good races or even better, and he runs a race like this, he can win. Obviously, he's a little bit suspect. He has been out for a long, long time, but I'm going to sort of, in Rick, I will trust in this race, because I don't really know what you want. I agree with you, the 2's a major contender in here. I mean, I guess Beachwalker can win, but guessing with David Jacobson on top is just not my cup of tea.
No, me either. And I kind of want to say that I don't feel as though Cup is completely out of it, and he was really wrapped up on in his last start because he took that weird step. But his races before that,
yeah, of course,
they make him a player, and he's a horse that can be forward. So I didn't want to be completely dismissive of him either. With Lost in Rome, I kind of wonder, is this maybe a prep to stretch him out again? Because first off the claim for Dutrow, they went and stretched him all the way out to 1.25 miles. Sometimes those are spots that come up. You have to take your opportunities, even if they're not exactly where you want to be distance-wise. But he's run at the 6 furlong distance several times and has yet to win it at 0 for 6 with 4 seconds. Maybe he wants a little bit more ground.
Right, but you say the 0 for 6 with 4 seconds, and he was running races that were easily comparable to the races that he was running at other distances. I think the question with him is whether you think he'll be ready and he'll run well for Rick. I don't, in general, I don't worry about less distance. It's just me. I worry about more distance. I mean, there are horses that are going to hit their limit. Most horses are okay under the right circumstances. It doesn't mean, and he is a horse who can be forward on his good days. Listen, I'm not in love with him. I just took him in here hoping to get it done because I just didn't really like them any others. I agree with you about the problem I say with Cup is it's an ex-Michelle Nevin horse, and I'm not even sure his very best race necessarily is going to be good enough to win here. That's part of the problem.
I just wanted to give him a mention as the infamous 5th pick as not being out of it.
Are you going to say that Jake Rocks has absolutely no chance in here? I mean, I wouldn't bet him. You wouldn't bet him.
There was a time.
But there's a Jake Rocks that beats this field.
Yep,
so
there was a time.
I'm not suggesting I really like his chances here, but to say that he can't win this race would be frivolous because he's run race that could.
Sure.
I think this is another race. And the other thing about this race is, who in here do you love?
Nobody.
Do you really?
Nobody
I mean, life changer. Okay, wet tracks. Maybe he just can't run anymore.
No, but I don't
coming off a
trust
layup.
him.
No, but I'm saying there's no way that you can love anybody in this.
Sure,
for me at least, you can love anybody because
if someone feels confident in this race,
who's reliable?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it just I don't see it. I guess you could say Tetsu ran the best race of anybody last time. Maybe he's the most reliable. Race number 3, Vintage, came out unfortunately from this race, and that was our replay. We both have Liberty Flame on top.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to try Justin Nyquist, thinking that we've seen a more aggressive Jose Gomez as of late. He would at least make an effort to put Vintage into the game, even if she wasn't fast enough to really be there on the cutback. But now Liberty Flame just looks like she's going to be the horse that ends up inheriting the lead.
She wasn't in front anyway? You don't think she's faster than Liberty Flame? Than Vintage?
No, I think she was going to be there, but I think Jose Gomez would have tried to apply at least a little bit of pressure. But now with this scratch, I feel as though her time on the front end does get much, much easier. And she's a horse that ran pretty well last time, I thought, dueling with a horse like Solib, who was in really good form at that time and just tough for company, even though they were state breds over her last 2 races. Gets a slight little bit of a cutback from the 7 to the 6.5, and dynamics should work in her favor.
I looked up Pat Quick dropping down 50% or more in claiming price. He's 3 for 14, 60 on the board, 554 ROIs just in the moves work. And you wonder a little bit with the lower profile connections that maybe the horse won't take as much money. And you know, I'm a big fan of Pat and the work he does, so I don't have any problem with that. There's something strange about this race. Can you tell what it is about the odds? You might not be alert to this, but I know that this is annoying our friend David Aragona.
I don't want to guess for him.
You either know or you don't know.
I don't think I know.
Because Vintage, who was the 2-to-1 favorite, is scratched. He's got co-5-to-2 shots, and you will never ever see David. And I don't know if other morning line makers, I don't think they do it either. But I know, David, you're not going to see 2 horses the same price. There's got to be a choice made for favoritism here, and I can imagine knowing him, and he is a perfectionist.
Maybe he'll tweet out a revised morning line.
I'm sure I left my phone in my office. He would probably text me, but I noticed there were 2 5-2s. I said, oh, Vintage must have been the morning line favorite because they would never be. I don't have a big problem here with Justin Nyquist, who we have second. I've just never been that big a fan of the horse. And it does get a rider switch to Robbie Davis and cutting back in distance.
You mean
that
Dylan?
One win, Robbie Dillon, right? No, I got
Robbie's riding today?
No, because Dylan rode that. Misrode that horse for Robbie yesterday. Dylan, don't race horses that need to be loose in the lead. Even if your father tells you to, don't do it. I guess she's the other horse in here.
She is, but isn't she just pace compromised? I mean, I kind of wanted to go in her direction when I thought that maybe Vintage would apply a little bit of pressure, but now I feel as though she's just not going to have the upper hand in terms of where she's going to be placed early.
That's fair. Mariah's Fortune, probably less pace compromise. She's another horse, obviously, has a chance in here. But we both like Liberty Flame. Race number 4. With weak column fun coupons coming out, it does sort of change the race. As we look at the replay of I Got Busted, I don't like I Got Busted particularly because he got loose a few days ago on a super gold rail situation. I'm not sure how good this race was. But now with the 5 coming out, obviously his chances are a lot better.
I had the same train of thought with this horse. I know we were both trying to beat this one, and I do kind of want to see it again in terms of a performance like this, enhanced by the racetrack that day. But now, as you said, this horse looks like he's going to be the one in front in this field, and whether or not he runs back a 76 Beyer, he might not have to.
No, but he's going to have to run reasonably close. He's going to beat me. I let a horse like this beat me. He's going to be an overwhelming favorite. They love those big wins a few days ago.
Yep.
You've got Augustine Red on top. I have him second. I'm done.
You're over him?
I'm done with this horse. I'm not saying he can't win, but I'm not picking him on top. He is as problematic a horse as I have seen in a long time.
Yes.
He's got a very short burst. And listen, the only reason he didn't win this race was a horse ran a race that appears nowhere on his PPs. The winner of this race had absolutely no chance going in. I don't know where the race came from. It came up fast, but he wants to lug in.
He does.
Badly.
And
you
that's
can see
the
him there,
problem.
and it'll be easier for him to get to the rail. He is probably the best horse near Sarah, but I am sick of his antics.
I am too, and I really don't trust this horse because we've seen this happen a couple of times where he does lug in significantly. I did feel as though in his last start, he did spend a little bit more time on the rail prior to angling out for a little bit of room in the stretch and then lugging back in again. And when he stays on the rail, he doesn't have anywhere to lug into. And so then he runs a little bit more. You can see that he made that big move to get himself into position and then was doing those silly antics in the stretch, and it's a problem. But I feel as though in his last start, he wasn't quite as bad as he was 2 back. 2 back.
No, he wasn't as bad last time. You're right.
But so maybe we're just slowly figuring things out. We're moving in the right direction. Jose Lezcano's ridden him a couple of times now. He's aware of what he's going to do. Maybe with that experience and some of his racing experience, he kind of matures out of that a little bit.
He might.
It's just a hope.
He might. No, it's a short price, and I'm not going to hope for that. I've had enough, but I don't disagree. He's clearly the horse to beat in this race. I'm going to bet Solo in Paris. I was waiting to make choice in this race, and after I saw the Rain Purcell barn winning with a couple horses over this week and one of them off the claim that he has good numbers, This horse ran a huge figure 2 races back, and a figure that makes him contentious here. I don't think he ran that badly last time. He stumbled. It wasn't really that bad, but he made a big wide middle move in that race. And this is a horse that's better than the bad races look. The question is he as good as the good race looks? I don't know. I don't love this horse. But I just didn't want to take Augustine Red on top. I didn't want I Got Bust on top. And after him, Black Almighty is the only horse that you're really left with that makes a lot of sense in here.
It's a very interesting move, right?
Yeah, I don't think that this is a private purchase, because this horse won for something called ERV something partners or ERPV something, and I think there's a reasonable chance that the owner being Irvin Rodriguez, that ERV stands for Irvin. I could be wrong. It seemed like a big coincidence, though, for a horse that's coming up here that just raced a few months ago in Puerto Rico. Man, you bring a horse up from Puerto Rico.
Put it with Linda Rice.
You don't see that often.
No.
So,
especially not a young horse either.
and I don't, it's hard to make a case for that. The 5th and 8th horses, I don't know if you looked it up. 5th and 8th horses won out of that race. I think the 3rd horse came back, won by 7+ lengths. There is a suggestion looking at the race it could have been an okay race.
Yep.
The likelihood that it was a 70 Bayerish race is close to 0, but I don't know.
This horse is a little interesting. I mean,
It's very interesting. I'll put it this way. I wouldn't want to have other opinions in the pick 5 and let this horse win and not have him. I don't trust the 2. I don't trust the 3. My 1, is sort of a 1 number-ish type horse. I thought this horse, I don't know. I mean, I'll tell you something else. They paid $45,000 for this horse at a 2-year-old sale. It's not like this horse is some $1,000 horse that, you've never heard of.
yeah.
I don't know. I saw Linda. I annoyed her yesterday, so I should have asked her about this. Well, I was giving her a hard time about something. She deserved it. Completely, totally deserved it. She blamed other people, but I know she was full of it. I'm going to call the other people and call her out on that. Anyway, but I think this is kind of one of the more interesting horses in the card.
No, I think so too. I mean, this is kind of that wise guy type of horse where you see this move and you're wondering, well, we don't see this too often, especially not with a trainer that we know is extremely capable, a horse that had that good sales price and comes in here with, honestly, not the worst pedigree that I've seen for this level.
He's a central banker. He's a New York bred that went down there. It's funny. I think I can only think offhand over the last 50 years of 2 really good horses that came from Puerto Rico. The first one was Bold Forbes. Bold Forbes won a bunch of races down there, showed up here, won the Tremont. He won the Saratoga Special, I believe. I think he won the 2nd stake at Saratoga, and of course ended up winning the Kentucky Derby, and Lasbra and Angel Cordero, and maybe one of the greatest rides in Angel Cordero's incredible history was getting Bold Forbes across the wire at 12 furlongs. I mean, I don't think too many people could have got that horse home besides Angel and Lasbrera, obviously, and Mr. Frisky. I think Mr. Frisky, who was more of a California horse, I'm not even certain he wasn't favored in the Derby. I think he was from Puerto Rico originally as well. I think he came a little later than Bold Forbes. Race number 4, we'll be back with the late pick 4. There's only 2 pick 4s today, by the way.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
We're back, Sarah and Andy. Thanks to our good friends at Saratoga Spring Water. Won't be long. We are less than 4 months until the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga, and we're less than 5 months before the Saratoga meeting. It's going to start getting warmer soon. I just can feel it. Race number 5. So Bonadieu in race number 5. I'm guessing that Bonadieu is the morning line.
No, she's not.
She's not. Yes, she is. She's 2 to 1. Oh no, our
No,
horse
she's
is.
not.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll show her first anyway. I don't want her. I don't want her. I thought she's been kind of with the tracks a little bit. I don't like who she's been running against, and I think she's a little dressed up here.
They have been career bests. Her last two races, I know Racing Colors did return to win out of that start on February 11th.
She was on a dead rail in this race.
Exactly. So she had that little bit of an excuse as well. And she's just overall a consistent horse in general. And I want to see another step.
Little bit of an excuse? I would say she had a massive excuse, but okay, go on. Being on a dead rail is not a little bit of an excuse. It's a massive excuse.
Anyway, she's looking for a third win in a row, and I just feel as though she, like you, has had things her own way. She was able to control that race from start to finish. You wanted to stay a couple of paths off the rail that day. She was always a few paths away from the inside. Her rider was very aware of how you wanted to stay a little bit off the rail, so...
She wasn't that far off the rail until the stretch, though. I will say, I watched the head-on. She was in the two-path, a lot of it, which kind of moved her up to me, honestly.
Yeah?
She wasn't that far off the rail. You know, it says inside turn. She wasn't on the inside, but she wasn't really that far off of it.
Okay.
She got off it in the stretch, though. That I will say for sure.
I mean,
saw it.
Look, she can win. I think that you have to at least consider her based on her recent efforts. Her last two numbers, they put her in the mix for sure. But I feel as though the horse that we both picked had some things against her last time.
Well, talk about Midtown Lights, who's the 8-5 morning line favorite. So the two geniuses up here came up with her.
I know she was also the favorite last time out. She was off a bit of a layoff, and that was a tougher field and a day where you wanted to be inside, which she never was. She's at least won at a mile in the past. Even her 67 Beyer speed figure last out against the racetrack, it only puts her behind Bonadou in terms of last out Beyer figs in this race.
I don't disagree. As the favorite, maybe I should have picked My First Love on top, but I can't disagree. I think she's the horse to beat in here. It was against the track. My First Love wanted to show her race 3 races back, or 4 races back. Jimmy Farrar's been having an excellent winter. He really seems to do especially well at Aqueduct. And so it's good for him that we're here for the next 47 years. And when she was good enough. And I just kind of wondered a little bit if she's a horse that had just been running and running and running and running. And finally, Jimmy said, you know what? She just needs a break. I mean, she's been out long enough that it probably was more than just needing a little bit of a break. But she's back. And when she's good, she's pretty good. And I think she's very dangerous here. I could have gone 1-8.
She was in really good form at that time. I mean, you can excuse the 6.5 furlong race before that. Prior to that, she was running behind Tough Street and winning those other 2 races. And she was kind of tailing off, but then she has this big break. So as you said, maybe she just needed a little bit of time to recuperate. I would have put her a little bit higher. Off 180 plus days, he's only 1 for 18. So I just thought she might need one.
Yeah.
But her best absolutely could
I
win.
want to know what prices those horses were and what they looked like. Because Jimmy runs a lot of horses that are just going to be big prices in his races. We'll see. It's a bit of a price. Race number 6. Race number 6. I'll tell you what's interesting. Race number 6. There weren't that many scratches. When you first looked at this race, I thought this could be a race that severely scratches down. And the only thing you knew is you knew one half of the 3 entry was going to scratch. That's the only thing you knew. And I was hoping it would be the 3, and it was. And after that, Airport, who I guess could have been part of the pace, but you're not going to run Airport and Chateau, so I kind of knew one of them was going to come out. Maybe Chateau will wire the field. I don't really see it. Talk about your top choice.
I picked kind of a ridiculous horse.
Yes, that would be true. You did.
He has yet to win since leaving the Linda Rice barn, but his first couple of starts for the new barn, I feel as though they really weren't that bad. He was very aggressively handled in his first start for the new barn, set the pace and faded a little bit against what may have been a better field. And then his 2 starts at somewhat of a comparable level, he finished second. One of them was to Chuck Willis, who then stepped up with that insane 93 Beyer effort before running 3rd. And then he was second to Poppy's Pride, who ran a similar number in his next start versus Tougher before trying that same Chuck Willis race. There's only one of his races that I didn't like at a level that I felt he could be competitive since he's joined this new barn. The other 2 races where he didn't run well, he was way in over his head. Those were spots that he absolutely had no opportunity in whatsoever. And I wanted to just give him another opportunity at the price that he's going to be, returning to a more realistic level, because I only disliked one of his efforts since he's joined this barn.
He's a big price. I don't see it, but he's a big price. The only replay I could find, oddly, for a race so full of horses, the only replay I could find that was even reasonable to show was Commerce Comet, so I thought I would show Commerce Comet. And the one thing I'll say about Commerce Comet is He was against the track last time. He was chasing Ryan's cat, who somehow got loose, and maybe having the benefit of hindsight, perhaps his rider would have been more aggressive, and it prevented him. And I don't think he was going to necessarily win anyway, but he was against the track last time and gets Manny back aboard in a dry track. And I know he won a conditional claimer in here, but I don't think his form really diminished last time. I don't think he ran that badly. At least with him, you've got a horse that you kind of know is in good form. The rest of them, we're sort of hoping they can find their good form, because not too many of these are coming in here off of blazing great form.
No, and with him, you have that little bit more of consistency. I do feel as though he was more with the racetrack 2 starts ago. He was off that dead rail that Big Save tried to rally up, but he was against it last time and still ran pretty well, so I don't think you can totally take that away from him. With Cajun Casanova, I feel as though he's a horse that he was inside on a dead rail day and chasing that day that Chuck Willis had that freakish performance. So maybe you feel as though he had some excuses last time and does also go first off the claim for Atris, but I just didn't want to pick a favorite in this kind of spot.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. He seems like the horse to beat in here. He's, as you say, against it for a little bit of the race last time. He had no shot in that field anyway. I don't love the claim in the drop down, but Rob's Barn's been going well, and he seems logical. I do like Breaking Stones a little bit in here. I thought his last race was actually okay. I know the race fell apart late, but it still was a gold rail race, and Bronx Bomber did ride the rail, and he was wide the whole way, and I think the winner may have angled out in there. So I actually thought he ran pretty well in there and was logical. I don't love his overall form, but maybe he doesn't really like a wet track. And based on his last race, I think he just is a perfectly logical horse in this race. I don't think it's going to be a particularly big price.
I liked him a little bit last time. So.
A horse that I wanted to make a bigger case for, and I ultimately, it's very hard connections to take. But the horses have been running, well, I mean, their 2 wins are with the same horse, but the horse has been running well, is One More Brew. Because you look at his races, he was down towards the inside in January 26th. I know the winner rallied towards the inside. I'm still not convinced you wanted to be there. And then, what chance did he have in that print rack race?
No.
And you go back, this is a horse that has those 2 races at Fort Erie that make him a contender in here. And I don't want to dismiss anybody that has races at a price that can make him a contender.
Sure.
Because, like, the 2 entry is 3-1. Do we see something particularly appealing about them? Neither one of us has either one of them in the money.
I mean, Clem Labine, I'm just tired of. And with Sunrise Journey, you're hoping that he can refine races that he ran in California, but it's not as though the last race gives you confidence that that's going to happen.
I mean, it's Jacobson, so anything is possible, but I agree. I mean, obviously, Clem Labine is the much likelier one, as his races are not far from being contentious. But I don't love the big drop down for this horse. And yeah, he was a little against it last time, but a little against it at most. And I just don't know if they can run. So listen, Jacobson's going to pretty much beat me most of the time, and he has successfully done it. But at a short price in general, I'm going to let them win. I thought race number 7 was a fairly competitive race. And we'll start with the horse you have on top. And I will not argue with you. I'm going to show the race 3 back when second, I believe. No, yeah, when second.
Yep.
This was actually probably your best effort, Sarah. It was always defeat.
Absolutely.
This was a huge speed track. She ran very well here.
This was such a significantly speed-biased day at Saratoga that I think for the entire meet, we did not see anything come close to how biased this day was. And she was really trying to close in some ground behind Olga Isabel, who had absolutely everything her own way in this race. I thought that this was a huge effort. And if she was coming in just off of this race, she'd be favored.
Right, and I think, well, I'll say 2 things about her. One is she may have just been a little bit raced out. On the other hand, I mean, she had a little break in there, but also she's not a 2-turn mile and 1/8 horse. She is a 1-turn 7/8 to a mile type horse. So I think that a sloppy track and muddy track and probably going the wrong way. She ran terribly. So I don't want to just say, oh, she's not a mile and 1/8 horse around 2 turns. She was bad.
It was too bad to have only been that. But I think that that's a fair enough thing to wonder about in terms of her being able to get that distance, and clearly it didn't work out.
And the other thing about Chad Brown is you can be very confident. Now, one of the reasons he has good numbers off of layoffs is he's not bringing them back if they're not doing well. He is somebody who, whatever you think of him, this is somebody whose horses go on the shelf when there is an issue. And they don't risk the issue getting worse. So if they're bringing her back, and it's relatively quickly, it's only a little less than 4 months, she's obviously doing okay. Now, it doesn't mean she's going to win here, but I'm a fan of this horse because she is incredibly consistent, and I agree. I thought about putting her on top. I have some other ideas in here, but I agree with you. I think she's a major, major player in here. I'll tell you a horse that I think is very dangerous that you've left out, and you may be right. I think Gimme Kisses is really dangerous. I know when she won here, she kind of had things her own way. But she beat security code. And
did.
then last time, she was running against horses in a completely different galaxy, and she was between horses, involved in the pace, kind of in
Pace
the
came
worst spot.
apart.
There were 4 horses vying for the lead. She had no chance in there, and I'm not so sure that this isn't a pledge horse that's very quietly improved, and I think she's really dangerous in here.
I thought about her. She was favored in that race on the 14th. It was a hotly contested pace, but I just did not love that she was the first one to wave the white flag in that race. And now she
Not that
also has
badly,
to
though.
go a little bit further as well. And I felt as though a horse like Stonewall Star was going to be right there with her early on.
Well, I don't think she's going to be in front. I don't think she can be in front of Stonewall Star. I don't think she can be in front of Royal Poppy. I don't really know that she necessarily easily win. Do you remember her dam, Agave Kiss?
Briefly.
Agave Kiss was a Rudy Rodriguez horse that debuted here, I think, in the winter and ran 2 huge figures. And she's actually the answer to a trivia question, a 2-part trivia question, which is, what was the last Grade 1 that Alan Jerkins won, and who was favored in the race? And Alan Jerkins won the Prioress with Emma's Encore, beating Judy the Beauty, who I bet by a nose. Thank
that
you,
horse
Chief.
was good. Yeah, I remember Judy the Beauty.
Chief was pretty good, too.
Wow.
And Agave Kiss was, I believe, the even money favorite in that race. But she was a really nice horse. I thought she was interesting. But at the end of the day, I like Stonewall Star in this race. I kind of hoping she's the speed. She was down towards the inside for much of the race on a dead rail last time. I thought she ran very well in her comeback race. I expected to move forward. I think it was the bad rail that cost her the race, and I'm hoping today is the day she gets it done. I don't think the pace is going to be easy, but I'm looking to see if she can wire the field.
Yeah, I mean, she's at least gotten the 7 in the past. We kind of had those hopes for her based on who she was before she went to the bench. I also thought the return race wasn't bad at all when finishing 3rd, and I know she has that excuse last time. She also took quite a few bumps at the break in that race. It wasn't just one significant bump. They were really knocking around the first inside 3 horses. So I feel as though she makes some sense. I just ultimately wanted to go in a different direction because I feel like we're still hoping that she gets back to who she used to be.
I don't know. I think a race 2 back actually makes her extremely tough in this race, so I'm not that concerned about it, to be honest.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean she's going to win. What is your thing with Taming the Tigress, who is not impossible? I'm not.
Wasn't she against the racetrack over her last 2 starts? I mean,
little
the
bit, yeah.
4th was a good rail. The 11th was a dead rail. She closed on the rail when it was dead. She was a little bit wide versus the good rail. She needs
She
to
also
get a
had
little
no
bit
pace
better.
last time, so she was compromised from there,
Right.
too.
She needs to run a little bit faster, but I did feel as though there were enough excuses for her.
And she should get some pace today, so she definitely makes a certain amount of sense. I don't disagree with that. I flirted with a lot of horses having a chance in this race.
Yeah.
This is a
Towhead's not impossible. Royal Poppy,
Okay, why do we like Towhead?
class relief.
Yeah,
Lane
yeah,
6
but
again.
Yeah, but what indication do we have that she's a horse that's okay going shorter? I guess class relief. The problem I have with her is she has one good race, that race at Oaklawn, and you could say she gets class relief, but she stunk in all those races.
I kind of wonder if she is one of those horses that needs Lasix, though, because she was on Lasix for
Okay.
that one big effort at Oaklawn.
Okay.
Now she does get it back off a little bit of a break. I don't usually look at
No,
that
that's a great
angle,
point. That's a
but
great point.
I did see that one big effort and then many subpar efforts, so that kind
I
of led
missed
me to
that.
believe it could be a Lasix thing.
No, that's a great point, actually. I agree with that. I mean, it
I'm
may
not,
not
a big,
be.
I'm not a big Lasix person, but
No,
I
no.
think
You have
sometimes
to pay
it's
attention.
applicable.
Right. I think in general, people are overrating its importance, but I think that's a great
I think
point.
some horses, though, you can certainly see it.
So race number 8. Necessary Proper 5-1. We'll show a replay of her running 3rd last time. I thought she had a run of the race last time with a good
Yep.
outside trip against a dead rail, but thought she ran well in here. I just don't think she's that good.
Yeah, I kind of
That's why
am
she's 5-1.
tired of her. I mean, she maybe had some things more in her favor in last race, but she's been sort of consistent, but consistently not that good over her couple of
Well,
races that
consistently
she's had
not
so
that
far.
good is the name of this field. I mean, you picked
Sure.
Snarky. So not to be too snarky, but what's good about her?
This is her second time in for a tag, and she was pulled up and banned off 2 starts ago. The 18th was a day where the inside and being on the rail was a significant advantage, and she really never saw the rail
fair.
throughout that race. She was forward to the outside before fading, while the winner of that race did save ground prior to angling out. That was Collect the Data, who was also dropping in for a tag for the first time. The first 2 starts completely against tougher company. She's not a turf router. Then she was eased. Then she was against the racetrack.
Okay,
So,
it's a bad field. I'm not going to knock any horse that can win this race. I mean, I'm not a big fan, but you're not wrong. She was against it, and this is a horrifically bad field, so I'm not going to.
Yes, it is.
I like the 6, Miss Bourbon, who's dropping as well, and she has run against better horses, and I thought she's actually done a little bit of running in some of those races, so I'm going to take her on top in the drop down. No
She's in
great
the
chase.
mix.
I'm going to start and end the day with Tom Morley. I know, Maggie, pray for me. What about the first year, Majestic Laura Ann, who you have 4th? The dam was pretty good, and I liked looking at her. Dam was trained by my friend Gary Gullo.
Yeah. I mean, this horse isn't impossible whatsoever, especially with the kind of field that we have seen, what we have seen from them. She's a half to a debut winner in Laura's Bellamy, who earned a 61 by her first time out. The works are okay, nothing flashy, but I don't think they really need to be for this level. First-time starters, dirt sprints. Levine's 11 for 57, $2.64 ROI over the past 5 years. I wouldn't leave her out.
Well, Bruce is always dangerous, and he's a trainer who for many, many years knew how to win with a first-time starter. That does it for today's President's Day card. I know everybody's really excited about President's Day. I know we are. Head over to Naira Bets and your excitement. Get on over there and use the promo code MATCH200. We'll match the $200 of your initial deposit. We have track stats. Head over to Naira Bets for that as well, so you can check them out after you've signed up for Naira Bets and gone in there. A lot of love on Joel Rosario's head there. What else do we have? We have a $20 bonus. Bet 100 each at Aqueduct and Oaklawn or more and get $20 back. Got to opt in over at Naira Bets. I'll be doing that in case I get really excited up there with Greg and start betting away at Oaklawn Park today. What else do we have cooking? Cross Country Big 5. 3 at Oaklawn, 2 here, last 2 here, last 3 at Oaklawn, all on America's Day at the races. Speaking of America's Day at the races, 3 to 4:30 on FS2, closing it out on FS1 from 4:30 to 6 for all that special President's Day coverage. Sarah, thank you very much. Chris Griffin, he's up next with a reprise of the Scratches and Changes. Have a great day.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.